Always true.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Is that going to
Bio je prvi diplomac kompjuterskih nauka kog je uposlila američka obavještajna agencija FBI. Nakon toga radio je za Microsoft i Google i njih je napustio kada je uvidio u kom pravcu idu tehnološke kompanije. Danas slobodno priča o sigurnosti ličnih podataka na internetu i kompanijama koje ih ilegalno prikupljaju. U okviru Rovinskog festivala Dani komunikacija, James Whittaker za Al Jazeeru otkriva kako izgleda proces pretvaranja privatnih online podataka u profit kompanija i oglašivača, te umjetnoj inteligenciji koja vođena ljudskom pohlepom prijeti da oduzme ljudima poslove.
James, welcome to Al Jazeera Balkans program.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You probably get this asked a lot, but you were the first computer science graduate ever hired by the FBI.
Yep, I
how
was.
did this happen?
Well, you know, back in the 80s, it was a new degree program. There weren't that many in the States. And so I, got my degree and applied for a bunch of jobs. And, it was not a good time to apply for jobs. There weren't that many out there. 2 offers, the FBI and IBM, 2 3-letter acronyms, right? And the FBI just sounded cool. This was a time where computer science was moving so fast, and you could get out of date, your knowledge could get out of date really fast. And so I remember I was at a magazine rack back when we used to have bookstores, and I was reading, the PC magazine, and there was a whole bunch of stuff in there I didn't recognize, and I thought, this is unacceptable. I want to be on the cutting edge, and so I went to the University of Tennessee for graduate school.
And you ended up working for tech giants such like Microsoft.
Yeah, I got my
and Google.
PhD in computer science, did my dissertation in artificial intelligence, and a professor for a while, did my own startup, and then moved out west and worked for Microsoft and Google. Both of those companies are really good to work for. They take care of their people. The problems that you get to work on are just incredibly interesting and incredibly hard. And you always felt like you were doing new things. And so, I got bored at Microsoft, quit and went to Google, did a bunch of new things, Chrome and Maps and some really cool projects. And then got bored there and went back to Microsoft
But you left them both at the end. Why?
Yeah, I left them both at the end. Eventually, I just retired. I was at Microsoft one day and realized that the only thing I like to do is go out and give talks at conferences. I wasn't interested in my day job anymore. And I looked around the company, they tried to hire me in various roles, and I just stopped being excited about new technology. And to be perfectly honest, felt a little guilty. This is the time when, the rise of Donald Trump and a lot of the weaponization of social media, and Chrome, which was my baby at Google, had become this piece of spyware. And it was just kind of soul-crushing to see something that you believed in and that you worked on and that was once a force for good, all of a sudden was used to get fake news out and track users, and it just became just kind of depressing.
The social platforms rule, you mentioned the social media and the abuse of the potential. They rule the attention economy. Basically, every time we watch an ad or a suggested video, our attention is being swept for money. So as an insider, can you tell us how does this process of turning people's attention, online social activity and data into companies' revenues and profit look like?
Well, the longer you spend looking at those. So when I was at Google, YouTube was a Google property, still is, and we called it user engagement. We don't want people coming to YouTube and just watching one video because they'll only see one ad. We need them watching the next video and the next video and the next video, and we called it user engagement. And it sounded kind of benevolent. Let's just keep people engaged. Let's keep their eyeballs on the screen. But it's not, right? We are sucking people into the void. We are wasting their time, showing them things that they don't need to see. And it was in that algorithm, that user engagement algorithm. Like if they just watch this, what's the next video that they're most likely going to watch? And so that's when the surveillance happened. We need to know who else watched that video and what video did they watch and did they watch it all the way through. So all of a sudden we've got all this data on user engagement and we know what videos to put in front of you that you're going to, stay. It was a money-making machine. And once it becomes a money-making machine, the capitalistic economy requires it continue to be a money-making machine. Not only that, it's got to make more, right? If quarter-over-quarter results have to be really good. And of course, capitalism and greed kicked in, and these companies couldn't stop themselves. They literally couldn't stop.
There is a great documentary talking about this exactly, the social dilemma.
Yeah.
We heard, and
Very accurate.
yes, and we had the opportunity to talk to Edward Snowden the first day of DK Festival, and he was saying about this forced consent. If we want to use the product, we have to give something in return, and that is our privacy and our data. And every time we click OK when we buy a new phone or we want to download an app, we actually are giving...
Well, we have no choice but to click OK.
Exactly.
If
And we
you don't click
normalize
OK,
this.
the phone doesn't work.
We've been doing this, right, from as of 2007, and we kind of we got accustomed to this.
No, we've been doing it a lot earlier than that. I mean, even the user consent for Microsoft Windows programs in the 90s had that here's your consent form. And back then it wasn't really a way to steal data from you. Back then it was just a way of, we know this software is broken, we know there's bugs in it, we shipped it too fast, don't sue us, right? That's what that whole user consent was. And then it just sort of morphed into more and more. And so people were already sensitized into just click OK. That's just click OK. And then it just got longer and longer and longer and more and more and more predatory. But it was too late. Users were just used to clicking OK.
But how are we to fight against this potential abuse of our data and avoid, as Snowden said, avoid violent revolution?
It's not, it is, they are stealing our data. And they are using our data into machine learning algorithms to predict our next behavior. Right? Amazon knows what products we're going to buy. And sometimes it does seem like magic. Like, how did they know? Right? We're shopping for a new couch and all of a sudden couches come up and it's just, this is crazy. And some of it's just useful enough that I think we don't rebel openly against this. However, with AI, and I made that point in my talk today, now they're ingesting this data into AI algorithms and that will ultimately result in humans being put out of a job. They're using our data against us now. They've always been able to say, oh, you get better advertisements, right? And there's a little song and dance over that. Now they're using it to make even more money on our data and sell to even more advertisers. And that's our data. And it has huge monetary implications for the companies that are taking it. And we get nothing in return.
But why is there an absence of regulations? A naive question maybe, but...
Well, it happened too fast for Congress to keep up. And so you got two things. You've got technology moving at the speed of light, and you've got our congressmen and women buying stock in these companies. They want them to succeed. They're getting political donations from these companies. They want them to succeed because they're going to help them get reelected. And so part of it is the corporations are really good at wooing the politicians to do what they want them to do. And then the other side of that is the politicians aren't educated enough about this stuff. I mean, you see our politicians call, a tech CEO in front of Congress and question them about things. And it's so clear how dumb our politicians are and how uneducated they are about technology. They do not understand it. How can they regulate something that they do not understand?
But still, people who understand technology recently signed an open letter to all AI labs, calling it for immediate pause of, for at least 6 months, they said, of training of AI systems more powerful than GPT-4. Do you think this is a prudent initiative?
Well, it's kind of a, hey, so at first it is important to just talk about it so that awareness is raised that, you know, this stuff might be dangerous and this stuff might actually be bad for society, maybe we should think about it. But no one in their right mind thinks anybody is going to stop. This is the time where companies are trying to jockey for advantage. You know, Microsoft and Google and OpenAI and Apple, Amazon, Facebook, everybody's working on this except Twitter. I don't have no idea what Twitter's doing anymore these days, but everybody's working on this. There's no way they're going to stop. And even if they said, oh, we're going to stop, bullshit, not going to happen.
One of these influential people that signed this letter, it was like Tristan Harris, Yuval Noah Harari, but it was Elon Musk. But just like after a few weeks of signing the letter, he announced that he's starting a new company, XAI Corp, to compete with OpenAI.
Yeah, Truth GPT or whatever he's calling it. Yeah, I think Elon Musk has been off the rails for a couple of years now. I think he's become one of the least trustworthy people in tech. Changes his opinions too fast, just does dumb things, you know.
Will humans get run over in this race of companies?
Of course. Yeah, and they're going to use our own data to run us over. Of course.
Who's going to stop them?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? So it's unlikely to be the current political establishment, because that's where we go for fairness and justice, right? We say, hey, look at all this bad stuff. This is what governments are for, to prevent these sorts of things from happening, to prevent monopolies from occurring, to prevent anti-competitive practices. But our government can't even figure out how to tax these big companies. These big companies don't pay any taxes. That is like their main job to fund the government, is to collect taxes, and they can't even do that right. So the idea that the government is going to step in and do this is not going to happen. It's going to take some political outsider to come in with some charisma and with some ideas and get elected to an office that matters and start getting stuff done. It's somebody we don't know who they are. But Trump has sort of paved the way for this. If I can say one thing good about Trump, is that he has proven that an outsider can get elected. A charismatic outsider with messages that resonate can get elected. And I think AI messages will resonate. But it's probably not going to be a Republican. It's probably not going to be a Democrat. It's probably going to be somebody from left field that we don't expect.
Some
that
technological
sweeps in at the
messiah.
last minute, who has the technological chops, who is young enough, right? No, you know, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and who has a charisma to pull it off, because it is an existential crisis for the planet.
Talking about the existential crisis, we mentioned AI. Should we, of course it's fine and it's very helpful to do the automation of our jobs, but should we automate all jobs, even these jobs and those jobs that fulfill us?
Well, of course we shouldn't, but we will. People are going to do, to me the priorities have been sort of messed up. Like, why are we doing art first of all things? Why aren't we doing accounting? Why aren't we doing law, right? The legal profession is nothing but data. If we ingest all of that, we would be able to build a much more fair justice system. But the lawyers have enough power to say, no, leave our data alone. We're monetizing the hell out of this ourselves. We don't want you here. The artists weren't powerful enough to say, don't take my work, right? I painted that. I wrote that. I created that. I drew that. I built that. And it was taken without their permission, because they're powerless compared to people like lawyers and accountants. To me, law and accounting are the low-hanging fruit. Why have we not done this? And so when you get to a profession like law or accounting, we call this artificial narrow intelligence, where the AI only has a certain group of data that's related and not anything outside, right? It only knows law. It knows all the legal books. It knows all the legal case precedent. It only knows the law. It doesn't know anything about, you know, art. It doesn't know anything about politics. It doesn't know anything about anything else. Artificial narrow intelligence. That's what we should be focusing on. There are so many really good low-hanging problems. AI would make excellent attorneys. They would make excellent judges. They would be so impartial that, you know, we could actually trust the justice system.
But they're learning from men, from human, and they are not impartial.
They're learning from data. So, and legal data, we have to be careful with it, because there is some there is some racist stuff in legal precedents, right? Black people get arrested for the same crime at a much higher rate than white people in my country. I don't know how it works over here. But, you know, I have my daughter's boyfriend's black, and, you know, every time I was driving with him, he will not speed. I'll go 10 miles over the speed limit. If I get pulled over, I get pulled over. He's like, I will not speed, because he doesn't want to get pulled over because he understands the ramifications of that. And so that's really the problem we have to figure out, is how do we take all that racist, sexist, misogynist stuff out of our data sets before we train the models? Because once the model becomes racist, it's racist. Because see, it learns from itself. It starts spewing out racial hatred, and then that becomes part of the data set. And so we really need to pay attention to the quality of the data that goes into these.
Should all data be ingested, or just
No.
some? Yeah.
So I'm a proponent of artificial narrow intelligence. I don't think we should be doing what Bing and Google Search are doing. The Google Search Index, it's too big. This isn't artificial narrow intelligence. This is artificial general intelligence. And the idea that all of the Google Search Index is going to be ingested, and then that artificial intelligence is going to opine about the human condition, that's terrifying. That's too much data. That data cannot possibly be cleaned. That data, and what is the use of it? Google Search already comprehensively solves the problem of search.
And we should leave
We're
it at
not
that.
solving a problem that really exists. However, ingesting all of the legal case precedent, we learn a lot from that. In ingesting all of the medical data that mankind has, we would learn a lot from that, and we would do good. And a medical AI isn't going to be opining about, you know, what you should wear and whether or not a trans person is a human, and whether or not, right, all of these things that, just be quiet. Why are you trying to opine on all of these things that humans haven't even really figured out? Just stop. Artificial narrow intelligence, stick to what you know, become an expert at a very small, narrow part of humanity, and stay in your lane.
If we entrust our big and small decisions in life to algorithms and AI, are we creating so-called unelected tech leaders? Will technology actually run our lives?
I mean, technology already runs our lives. Mark Zuckerberg and Sundar Pichai are far more powerful than many politicians are. So this isn't a new problem. We can't blame that on AI. We're already there in terms of machines running our lives. I mean, you walk around when we flew into the Zagreb airport, I pointed out to my wife, it's like, look at all those people over there. What do you see? You know, 30 or 40 people, every single one of them staring at their phone. So we've already opted into giving up our connections with humanity. You know, nobody strikes up a conversation in an airport anymore because we're all staring at our phones. So we've already seeded that. The rabbit hole's deeper, and we will probably go there. But at some point, you know, we need to get together as a species and say, where do we draw that line? What data should we keep away from the machines? What is it that makes us uniquely human? If we're going to stop for 6 months, maybe that's what we should discuss. You know, where do we draw that line? Instead of just saying stop and don't do anything, no, let's stop and have a discussion. Where is that line that machines can't cross? What opinions can machines not give? What data should machines not be aware of so that we can keep some of it for ourselves?
So we're in the phase where technology operates in this hunter-gatherer mode, but we need a different kind of world, you said. What kind?
Well, we need a world where wealth is generated differently. So right now, wealth generation works really good for corporations. They make tons and tons and tons of money. Not so good for governments, right? My country is some tens of trillions in debt. So why is it that corporations have this wealth generation strategy that is just excellent? Right? It even survives recessions and depressions and bounces back really quick. And yet our government, the money for the people, is so poor. So that, I think, is the thing that I'd like to see change. instead of governments taxing these companies, which we're really bad at, there's so many loopholes and they dodge taxes, the government should be invited to that investment table. You want to release an AI? Okay, then the government owns 2.5%, 5%, whatever that number is, of the stock in that AI. So governments generate wealth just like corporations do.
Where are the citizens?
Well, the citizens are part of that, right? They're part of the government. So the pool of welfare money would be bigger. The pool of social services would be bigger. And we're talking about a lot of money. You know, corporations are really good at generating billions and billions of dollars. How many companies now do we have in the United States that are over $1 trillion market cap? It's Microsoft, it's Google, it's Apple, there's more. Are you kidding me? If governments generated money like corporations generated money, we would not need even these jobs that AI is going to take away. We'd already have the wealth of humanity. The treasure of humanity is being tucked away in the hands of a few corporate oligarchs. And now is our chance. We passed up that chance when Microsoft and Google and all them IPO'd, but if you want to do something in AI, and that AI has ingested the data of humanity, humanity gets a share.
Yes, but we need tech-savvy citizens. That is why I mentioned
But
that.
we have those. If you draw a certain line across the age, and I don't mean to be age discriminant, for the record, I'm old, but the young are tech-savvy, and they're good at it, they're comfortable with it, and they understand it almost at an intuitive level, right?
But they are also fragile. I mean, these new generations, they are born and raised in hybrid world,
Yeah.
and AI it has its impact on human psychology. For instance, Snapchat integrated recently like a conversational AI, and millions of teens are using it.
Yeah.
They cannot really tell reality from virtuality.
Yep, that's right. We need to do a better job educating our citizens. And we're going to have a chance because AI is going to take away so many jobs that we're going to have a whole bunch of idle people, and we need to put them to work on something productive. You know, I proposed during my talk here at DK 2023 that we build an AI corps, you know, like the Army Corps of Engineers in the United States, you know, recruit people, train them to be engineers, and have them build bridges and infrastructure and things like that. Do the same thing for AI. Teach them how to clean data, how to do the data science for model building and data ingestion, and an intensive program that creates an entire generation of AI warriors, right? Some of them would work on the data for solving global warming and climate change. Some of them would work on the data for medicine and curing cancer. Some of them would work on the data for finding exoplanets that can support life, right? Big, audacious goals that would actually do good for humanity. We have this opportunity of literally millions of unemployed people who could be put to work side by side with the machines, solving humanity's greatest challenges.
So just to wrap it up, you do believe in this humane technological future?
I believe that it's possible, and I believe we need to grasp it now. We need more people. So one of the reasons I come to conferences like this, I have a PhD in computer science. I should be at tech conferences. But it's the tech conferences that are going to, the problem with the tech conferences is that it's a closed community that isn't really good at communicating outside that community. So here I am, a PhD in computer science. I'm at a marketing event. I don't have anything in common with these people, but I think it's really important for marketing people and advertising people and medical people and legal people to understand AI. It cannot be left to tech alone. If we let the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Satya Nadellas and the Sundar Pichais of the world solve this problem, God help us. It needs to be a larger community, and that's why I go to conferences like this.
James, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
You are welcome.